The wise Abraham Lincoln said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." Now, this is where training comes in. Oftentimes, we proceed to do something, but if we are not prepared, we did not sharpen our axe, then we will not be able to do whatever task that is given to us effectively and efficiently. And that is why uh, it is very important to have training. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the types of training methods and planning the training program. But as we go into that, we'll be talking about the importance quickly, and then we go on to look into the types of training methods, and then we will end with how we will be able to plan the training program. And along with this video, I will be giving some notes on an example. I will be giving an example of a training program through your notes. So let's begin with the importance of knowing or choosing the right training method. We know already that training is important, but how about the importance of choosing the right training method? So let me share with you 3 reasons. Number 1 is to maximize learning outcomes. Okay? The training method impacts the effectiveness of the learning process and the subsequent outcomes. Of course, considering the differences in learning styles and preferences of the trainees or the learners, we also need to look into how they will be able to participate well. And as a result of the training, how are they going to apply? Or even if it's still within the training program, how are we going to encourage them to start applying it already, even in just simulated exercises, or let's say case studies or role plays. And of course, along with this is being able to consider the relevance, the context of where the trainees are in, connecting it with the training content and the method that we'll be using. So that's number 1, to maximize learning outcomes. Number 2 reason is that we'll be able to engage and motivate the learners or the trainees. You see, when we have interactive and collaborative methods, this increases the retention and builds a positive perception about the training program. Now, if we are going to carefully choose the right method as well, then we'll be able to know how we can use any technology, advanced technology that may be available. And this will increase the accessibility of the training. And also, because you're increasing the accessibility to the trainees, then there is also this sense of a personalization that is to be increased. And if you do that, if it is accessible, if it is somehow customized or personalized to a certain level to the different trainees or learners, then the sense of ownership and the appreciation increases. And that is very important when it comes to training. And third is to optimize resources. Now, when we match the training method with available resources, then we'll be able to ensure optimal utilization. And this will avoid unnecessary expenses. Many times we do trainings and we choose a certain method, and because we're not ready, the technology is not there, the resources are not there, then we end up changing last minute. Or if we choose something and we did not consider the resources, then maybe we might be spending or overspending on something that, hey, it may not be efficient, or yes, it may help us become effective in the training method, but we will be led into something that's inefficient, because maybe we just use it just for that training. And how about the next? And we spent on that already, right? And that is why choosing the right method will be very crucial. So again, it helps us to maximize the learning outcomes. Second is to engage and motivate the learners. And third is to optimize resources. So those are the importance. And so we have to carefully choose the right training method. So what then are the different training methods? Okay. What then are the training methods? There are three different or general categories of training methods. Number one is presentation method. Number two is hands-on method. And number three is group building methods. But under those three general categories are several types also. And that is what we are going to talk about. So number one, on presentation methods, we have two. And by the way, as I discuss each of these, there can be times that they will overlap with the others, like on hands-on and group building. Because somehow when you do, let's say, a presentation method, somehow it could turn into something like a hybrid. Why? Because maybe when you do your presentations, you will allot a little bit for them to go into some hands-on exercises. And that is why there can be overlaps. But the purpose of categorizing them into those three is to help us just better understand the basics. And of course, as we go on in choosing the right methods, there can be ways on how you can blend or you do hybrid or combination of these different methods. So let's begin with the presentation method. Under that method are two subtypes. Number one is classroom instruction. Now, this is the most widely used and the least expensive, and it's also the least time-consuming methods. And you simply want to present information on a specific topic, and oftentimes the trainees are many. So there are many trainees, you simply want to present information, and that is why you do this classroom instruction. Now, there can be times that this will also allow some group interaction, and there could be some hands-on practice, as mentioned earlier. But this is best applied when introducing new concepts or theories to a large group of trainees. So for example, maybe a company will conduct a training session on new sales technique, okay? And they can use this method, classroom instruction. So they can simply present the information, they can allow group discussions, and maybe towards the end, they will provide hands-on practice through role-playing exercises. But a big chunk of the session will be on their classroom presentation. So that's number one. Number two is audiovisual and computer-based training. So this is often called e-learning. And this does not require trainees to attend a class or go on site. So it can be online, right? And this way, the organizations or the company can reduce the time and money spent on training. So this is applicable, or this is ideal when the training needs to be delivered remotely or when individuals need self-paced learning. Ayan. So for example, maybe an organization implementing a new software, then they can use this method, this computer-based training modules, because this will allow the employees or the trainees to learn at their own convenience and also interact with the software, with the system virtually, self-paced. Okay, so those are the two subtypes of the presentation methods. Again, classroom instruction, and second is audiovisual and computer-based training. So we move now to the second general category, which is hands-on method. And under hands-on method would be on-the-job training. On-the-job training could include apprenticeship or internship, and this will give the trainees first-hand experiences. Now, this is effective when practical hands-on experiences are crucial to that certain uh, outcome that you want to achieve. So, for example, a manufacturing company can provide apprenticeship to trainees, allowing them to work alongside experienced technicians for them to learn the intricacies of operating a machinery and performing production tasks, right? So, of course, our example is on apprenticeship, and this is more on skill-based areas. So that's on-the-job training. Second would be simulation. Now, under simulation, this is going to represent a real-life situation, and this will enable trainees to see the effects of their decisions, but without the dangerous or expensive consequences. And that's where simulation would be beneficial. Now, this is so good, so beneficial when the trainees need to practice their skills in a realistic but safe environment. Why safe? Because it's just simulated. So if there is an attached huge investment as to money, let's say, then you don't have to incur that actually. Why? Because it's just simulated. So for example, a flight simulator, and this can be used to train pilots, allowing them to experience different flight scenarios, and maybe there can be some emergency procedures that they need to do, and they can do this without risking actual aircraft or airplane or even the lives of passengers. Now, that is very costly in case something bad happens. Now, with simulation, you can do that, right? You can practice without these costly consequences. Okay. Another on hands-on would be business games and case studies. Now, this is so suitable for practicing and enhancing decision-making skills. An example would be an organization conducting a business strategy workshop can use case studies to present real-world scenarios. And in these real-world scenarios, the participants can analyze and make strategic decisions collaboratively. Now, either this can be done in a physical classroom setup or online. So again, you'll see here how this is connecting or overlapping with the others that were mentioned earlier. So this is on business games and case study as a second sub-type of hands-on. Now, the third under hands-on would be behavior modeling. Okay, let me say it again, behavior modeling. And this gives the trainees a chance to observe desired behaviors. They want to observe desired behaviors. So this technique can be effective for teaching interpersonal skills. For example, in a customer service training program, and trainees can observe videos or live demonstrations of exemplary or model excellent customer service representatives in their interactions, so that the observers, the trainees, can learn their exemplary and effective communication and problem-solving skills. So again, this can be done as a recorded one on video or live demonstrations. So those are the three subtypes under the hands-on method. Again, simulation, business games and case studies, and behavior modeling. Now, we go to the last one, which is group building methods. Under group building methods would be experiential and adventure learning programs. Now, in experiential and adventure learning programs, this method would provide an opportunity for group members to interact in challenging circumstances, but the problem here is that this may exclude members with disabilities. Again, understanding these different methods would help us choose which is the best one. If there are some people or employees that may belong to these, let's say, persons with disabilities or differently abled individuals, then we have to carefully choose, is this the best one? Or maybe we have to have a separate training for them. Okay, again, there are different factors that we have to consider. Now, for this particular subtype, this is beneficial for team building and developing collaboration skills in challenging environments. So, for example, a leadership development retreat can include outdoor team building activities that require members to solve problems. They can do it together, and this will, as they overcome these obstacles, they are building their collaborative skills in an experiential and adventurous learning program. So that's the first one under group building methods. The second is team training. Now, this focuses a team on achievement of a common goal. Now, this is best suited for developing teamwork and achieving shared objectives. So, for example, a project-based organization may conduct a team building or a team training session to enhance communication, coordination, and collaboration among team members on a specific project. Okay, so it's somewhat similar to the first one we discussed under group building method, which is experiential and adventure learning programs. But the first one is focused more on the individual, but still in the context of a team. Now, on team training, it's geared toward that, on achieving a common goal as a team and working together. Now, along with the example of the training program that I will be providing as a note is the comparative table between these experiential and adventure learning programs and the team training as an additional reference. Okay. Now, the third under the group building method is action learning. And it's also somewhat sounding similar to the previous two, but action learning offers relevance because the training focuses on an actual work-related problem. Now, on the previous two, it may not be actual, but this one, action learning, is really actual work-related problem. The others on the previous two, it can be simulated, it can be preparing them on an actual scenario, but this one, it's directly applying the skills on an actual work-related problem. So this is applied when training is focused on solving real work-related problems. So, for example, a company implementing a new production process, okay, they can use this action learning to form teams that work on improving the process and identifying practical solutions while gaining valuable insights. So they are there already doing it in the process. Okay. Now, again, you have to carefully consider the things, the cost along with all this, because again, will this be the best one? Or you will be, or maybe you can just choose a simulation. Again, it depends on the circumstances. It depends on the available resources. It depends on the trainees. And of course, guided by the training or the learning outcomes that you want to achieve through your training. So those are the different types of training methods. Again, I will be providing, along with the notes, a comparison of the experiential and adventure learning programs compared to team training. Because sometimes people say that, hey, they're similar, but they are different. Again, the first one is focused more on the individual, and the second really on the team. Okay, on the individual working with the team, the other one is really the team working together, right? So also along with the notes I will be providing is also a table, a comparison of training methods, the all in all, and this is a comparative table that is lifted from the employee training and development book by Noe Raymond. And this is a good way to better understand the methods as you try to consider the different factors or the different considerations. If really, is it best to choose this method or choose another one? So this comparative table will also be very helpful. But as to the essence, the examples and the ideal scenarios of when you will choose that method, we discussed this already. And so now that you are given, you're equipped with the different training methods, we go now into planning the training program. Now, why do we need to plan the training program? Because, as Benjamin Franklin said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail, right? By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And that is why part of our preparation is careful planning, okay? Very important. Again, just to give a quick rundown of the reason why we have to plan the training properly is that, number one, so that we will have a clear objective. And if we have a clear objective, then we will have a clear focus. And of course, that should be aligned with the organizational goals. After all, this is why you're doing this, to help achieve organizational goals. Number two is to enable the optimal resource allocation. Now, this includes your budget, your time, personnel, materials, facilities, and even technology that you'll be using. And third is, of course, to improve training effectiveness. We want our trainings to be effective, and that's why we have to plan for them. Now, through a well-designed training with appropriate content and carefully chosen method and activities that are aligned to the identified training needs, then we can say that, hey, we're making it more effective and efficient. So let's do it now. How then can we plan the training program? Number one is we need to do a training needs assessment. Now, this is covered by the other topics that it is worth mentioning in this topic, because conducting a thorough assessment to identify the specific training needs of individuals or the teams or the organization as a whole is very important. Now, this can be done through surveys, through interviews, through performance evaluations. If there is an established or institutionalized performance management system, then the performance evaluation results could be easily accessible. Now, you can also do gap analysis. Now, in your training needs assessment, you identify the skills, the knowledge, and behavioral gaps that the training should be able to address. Now, if you do that, again, it has to be in alignment of how you support the individual and the organizational growth and development. Okay, so do a training needs assessment. Second is to develop clear objectives and learning outcomes. Now, it is here when we define clear and specific training objectives. And this should be aligned with the identified needs. That's why we start with that, the needs and the organizational goals. The training objective should be in alignment to that, filling in the gap, filling in the need in support to how we help achieve the organizational objectives. Now, we have to ensure that the objectives are measurable and achievable. So we outline the desired knowledge and skills, including the behavioral changes that are expected from the training. After all, that's the aim of a training, to help change behavior also. So that should be part, not just of knowledge and skills. So knowledge, skills, and behavior. So consider the desired learning outcomes and how they will contribute to individual and organizational performance improvement. So the third step is to design now the training content and delivery methods. So design the training content to address the identified needs, and you select from among the different methods that we've discussed, which among them is the most appropriate. And also, we determine whether the training will be conducted through a classroom-based session, e-learning, on the job, or a simulation, or a combination, or let's say if it's a combination that's in it, then it's going to be a blended learning. As mentioned earlier, you can combine the different methods. So in this area, it is worth mentioning as well that we have to consider sequencing and structuring the training content to ensure that there is a logical flow and there is progressive learning. They will proceed to the advanced if they are equipped with the basic ones. Okay, that is very important. The sequence and the structure. After we're done with that, then we have to determine resource allocation and logistics. So again, this includes the budget, the trainers, materials, equipment, and even the facilities. Okay, again, based on the needs that we've initially identified. So knowing this or having this will ensure smooth implementation because there is proper coordination. Because oftentimes, when you look into the logistics, the facilities, there are different departments that will be involved. And if these are not clearly identified, then it will be a hindrance on the proper coordination along with the different teams or departments that are in charge of these different elements. Okay, so if we're done with determining the resources and the logistical needs, then we will look into, going back to the content of the training, we have to develop an evaluation and feedback mechanism. Some people would do the training and then later on they will plan for the evaluation, but it has to be done already during the planning of the training program. The evaluation and feedback mechanism should be identified and designed already. So these will help us assess the effectiveness of the training in the impact of the training. So in here, we need to develop evaluation criteria and the measurement methods on the method to be able to collect the data about the participants' learning, the change in their behavior, and of course, the overall success of the training program. Now, we need to incorporate opportunities for participant feedback and continuous improvement of the training program as well. So this is good for the individuals, and this is good for the training program itself because it will help us improve the training program and again, supporting the goals of the organization. Now, if you're done with that, then we put them all together as we decide the timeline and implementation. Okay, so in here we have to establish realistic timeline for the training program, considering the duration of each training component. Sometimes some would allot an unrealistic duration for a certain training program, and they will force the training program in that very short duration when in fact it requires a longer duration. So we have to be realistic in our timeline and also consider the availability of the participants and any dependencies on other organizational activities. So you have to consider that. Maybe you don't want that production will be impacted, the entire operation will be paralyzed. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. Now, as we do this, then we communicate the training schedule and the expectation to the participants and the other stakeholders in advance. Okay, so that has to be done in advance. So there is careful coordination to support proper and effective implementation. All right. So for you to better appreciate the discussion, I will provide an example of a training program, and this is a training program for customer service excellence. So it will be better if it's going to be read through a document. So I'll just provide that document along with the comparative table of the different training methods that we discussed earlier. So again, it is important for us to be able to carefully choose the training method because there are a lot, and the method will be applicable or best suitable depending on the different objectives that we have or outcomes that we aim to produce. So we need to consider that along with the needs, the training needs that we have identified, choosing the best method as we incorporate that when we develop that training program so that we really are able to achieve the goals of the training, and we can really say that, hey, we have prepared. And if we have prepared, then we'll be able to successfully implement this certain project that we're doing. And if we do that, then we are effectively sharpening our axe so that, hey, when we are asked to do the task, then we are well equipped. We are ready. Why? Because we have sharpened our skills. We have sharpened our knowledge. And because of that, our behavior is aligned to whatever is required to perform the task, the job, or the role that is given to us. And for the trainees, whatever is given to them. Now we can say that they are equipped and they can deliver excellent, valuable results.